Are we ready? Go for it.
All right, calling the meeting in order at 8:32 a.m. in consideration of others in the business conducted today. Please silence your phones and any electronic devices and refrain from speaking unless recognized by the chair. Again, this is a public meeting for the community of Glendora. We appreciate and respect your presence here this morning. Roll call, Madam Clerk, will you please conduct roll call?
Thank you. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each member respond with the word present when their name is called. Board Member Jarvis.
Present.
Board Member Davis. Board Member Klingler.
Present.
Vice Chair Nolan.
Present.
And Chair Snyder is absent at the moment.
All right, at this point, in the Pledge of Allegiance, will you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? Begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reordering in additions to the agenda, does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda this morning? I see none. Let's move on to public comment. The open public comment period. I now invite members of the public to address the Business Improvement District Advisory Board. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once, both on and off agenda items. All questions should be directed through the presiding officer. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. If you are in attendance, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the recording admin before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, speakers should advance to the podium, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. If you're participating via Zoom, please select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of the public comment period. Once recognized, you will receive a request to unmute, state your name and the subject matter you wish to discuss. Do we have anybody here now?
I don't have any public comment cards, but I do have someone on Zoom that's going to speak. I am going to request, we're going to send you a request, Ronnie Salazar, to speak. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good morning to the board. My name is Veronica Salazar and the owner of the Mercantile Collective in Glendora Village. And we'll be opening this mid-August, the first hat bar to come to San Gabriel Valley. So we're super excited about that. I would like to propose to the board a fall harvest and Dia de los Muertos celebration event in the village. I have extensive background in hosting large events, multi-vendor events. I've also helped facilitate these type of citywide events as a board and previous board member of Claremont Village Marketing Group. The proposed date for this event would be November 5th or November 4th. This is a Saturday or Sunday that follows Dia de los Muertos. This would not only additionally provide the bid board additional revenue for the year, but also bring gravitation of community to our village. It would also be able to offer opportunity for current merchants in the village to have a successful day of sales. This would be one of the first in San Gabriel Valley that we would be hosting in the Glendora Village. And I would like to propose to the board to recognize this as an event and potentially get a vote for this to be a future consideration for the Glendora Village.
Is that it? You still have some time.
That was basically it. In addition, I'm not sure if I need to discuss what the plan would be in terms of team or volunteers. I think that would be something that could be considered once it moves past voting. But as we are expanding in the village, more culture, more Latino culture, it has been voiced and recognized since our last event, since our last meeting that the bid hosted, that the village merchants are looking for something new to have in the village. So this would bring not only vitality of culture, but also something new to San Gabriel Valley that isn't hosted, quite honestly. And I've seen it personally hosted before in previous years in the Claremont Village. And it is a huge draw for LA County culture as well as business merchants profiting for the day, success in sales and overall foot traffic brought to Claremont Village when we did host pre-pandemic. So this would be something that I would like to see activated, and I would love to be the person to help make that happen. And that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your comments. At this point, I'd like to just bring up to the board if we would like to bring this to a future meeting, put it on the agenda. So open for discussion, I guess. Is that right?
So you'll just make a motion. If anybody, other members on the board, if anyone wants to make a motion to bring it back, then staff will connect with Ronnie, get the details and bring it back for presentation with more information on what her plan would be. And she talked about revenue generating, how that would work, if she would need any money to get it started. We'll put all that information and bring it back to the board for a discussion at a future meeting. But at this time, you guys just need to make a motion if you're interested in hearing.
Yeah, it just requires 2 board members to place an item on the agenda.
Well, before we make a motion or do any of that, can we have a little bit of a discussion? Because I just want to remind everyone that we have the Halloween walk and it's in quick succession. And I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing something that would be included in the Halloween walk, but I don't think like having 2 events in the same week is sort of a viable thing to do.
I'm
think
sorry,
we-
prior to this discussion, are we closing public comment at this time?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we will. We will close the public comment period at this
Thank
time.
I think we definitely should talk about it. And I think there needs to be a little bit more discussion because the Halloween walk, and I think maybe there's been some feedback about the Halloween walk is primarily children in the village, which is not a revenue generating event.
In order to discuss that, you will have to agendize for future discussion. So
I'd like to move to put this on the agenda for our next meeting to talk about the Harvest Festival event and how it relates to the Halloween walk.
And for clarification, Kathy, just by bringing it back doesn't mean you're approving the
Oh,
event.
I know.
So, okay.
just so
And
you
I
can
will
discuss
second
it.
the motion.
Okay. Perfect. Do we have any objections? Seeing none, we'll agendize that for the future meeting for discussion.
Moving on, board statement and reports. I invite each board member to provide a statement or report if you have anything. Kathy?
I just want to report that the Friday night twilights are going very well. We've had good feedback from the artists performing. We could always use more people to enjoy the entertainment, but so far summer hasn't been too hot and it's been very nice out there in the evening. So come down and see us this Friday, 6 o'clock.
Gentlemen?
I had a question about that. Noticing that the performers are in the bus plaza, but most of the activity seems to be on Maida. Is there any thought to moving the performers to Maida, where there's more people? Just an idea.
I don't know if I could speak for the city, but we have outlets and electrical equipment available in the bus plaza. The bus plaza was built for, events like that, entertainment purposes. We have different activities and things going on in Mita. So, yeah, I mean, it was mentioned by the musician this past week, that there was a lot of people, especially in front of like Stubborn Mule,
Yeah.
because people are dining outside and stuff. But a lot of those people, once they left the restaurant and they're walking down the street, they would stop at the bus plaza and listen to the music. So
We were out there a couple weeks ago, and there were just a ton of people, and I was trying to think, how would we go to some of the businesses and restaurants around that area and see kind of like what was done with that group of businesses this last Friday. to have them either create a menu item that could be a takeout item or some kind of discount. That there's got to be some opportunities for businesses in that kind of in that zone to be able to support the people who are out there. And maybe like what we might end up talking about next time, or having, if it's the bus plaza, having tables at the bus plaza or some sort of idea so that the businesses that are further away can have some kind of a presence there. But yeah, okay.
I was just gonna say, historically, downtown Glendora is pretty quiet during the summer. Our sales drop as a retail business. While school's off, a lot of people travel and things during the summer. So, we try, and a lot of the retailers close. Like there was a lot of businesses closed this week for the 4th of July. They took, extra time off with their families and things. So it's always tough.
Any other comments? All right, moving along. Special item here today is the administration of the oath of office and reorganization for the term 2023-24.
You actually forgot the
Uh-oh.
director, staff liaison.
We can just forget that. No. I'd like to invite Community Development Director Jeff Kugel and Housing and Economic Development Manager Valerie Velasquez to provide a statement.
Yeah, I don't have any report today.
No report, thank you.
Yeah, I knew that. Now moving on to the administration of oath.
So at this time, I now invite Board Member Jarvis, Board Member Davis, and Vice Chair Nolan to the podium so I can conduct your oath of office.
Not me. I'll just sit right here.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Catherine Jarvis,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
And the Constitution of the State of California.
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
And
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
Discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to
upon which I'm about to enter.
Let me have you guys sign these. Wait, not yet. Oh, it's official. John. Stand real quick. Sign right by your name. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Your mom's gonna be so proud of you.
They're all laughing. I'm like. All right, so moving on. All right, so at this time, we're going to conduct the chair and vice chair. At this time, I declare the offices of chair and vice chair vacant. Nominations are now in order for chair. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Dawn
Perfect. Me too. I'll second that.
Third.
for chair, actually, that was.
Yeah, correct. That's chair first. So seeing none, I declare Dawn as the chair. Congratulations. I'll turn the meeting over back to you so you can conduct the vice chair and the rest of the meeting.
Okay, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Matt Klingler.
I would like to nominate Kathy Jarvis.
I will second the motion for Matt Klingler.
I'll second for Kathy. Let's have a good pair.
Is Dalel still on the board?
She is, she just could not make it.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and so, how do we do this one then? It doesn't.
How would you do this one? Well, we'll vote for Matt. Do we have any?
This
Okay.
is hard.
Any votes for Matt?
Well, I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'll vote for that.
Okay. I have two. Do we have any votes for Kathy? Okay, so it's 1-2. So it looks like Matt, you are vice chair. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And at this point, we'll move on to the chamber. Oh, I don't see Joe in the audience for the Chamber of Commerce update.
So we'll skip that one.
We'll
Yes.
skip that. Okay.
On to consent calendar.
That is the motion was made, that one? No.
Done.
Okay, the consent calendar. Okay. Does anybody wish to comment on item 14? That's last month's minutes.
Correct.
Seeing none, I request a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
And we
Yeah.
do. So we do have the system. If you guys could push the buttons real quick. We'll do. Davis was first, correct? And then.
Yes.
Kluger. So we have a motion made by Vice Chair Klinkler, or no, sorry. Board Member Davis and then seconded by Vice Chair Klinkler. To approve consent calendar items, I will conduct an oral roll call vote. Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Jarvis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Klinkler,
Yes.
and Chair Nolan.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
This time we have the continued discussion on the marketing parameters for social media marketing. I invite Alicia Siniga to report.
Good morning. Just bringing back this item on social media marketing parameters. Just to kind of refresh your memory, on May 4th, the board did request to bring this item for discussion to go ahead and discuss the marketing parameters for social media. At the last meeting on June 1st, staff went ahead and brought back this item to the board to discuss, at which time the board deliberated over what should be posted on social media and how it pertains to businesses that are not members of the bid. Alrighty, so as a result, the board went ahead and came up with a set of parameters to follow and move forward with. The first being businesses within the bid may be posted. The second, businesses outside of the bid are not to be posted. And lastly, all social media content should pertain directly to businesses, events, or attractions in the downtown Glendora Business Improvement District. Again, these guidelines are to be the basis of what the marketing consultant posts moving forward. I did want to reiterate that the bids agreement with the marketing coordinator provides 20 hours of service per month. If you break that down over the course of the month, that is a little less than an hour per day, which is not really sufficient to go ahead and post regularly or equitably. With this in mind, the board may want to consider possibly creating a committee for marketing, basically a group of bid members that may feed the marketing consultant information or just regular content to go ahead and post and not rely solely on her. Just something to keep in mind. I believe that was something that was done in the past, so something that might want to be brought back again. And at this time, like I said, we went ahead and brought this back for further discussion. The board did request that, and we do have the marketing coordinator here today to address and also provide any additional direction if you so see fit. So I'll go and turn over back to the board.
At this point, does the board have any questions or comments regarding this?
I'd like to hear from our marketing director to see if it would be valuable to her to have, a group of people specifically to communicate with.
So my thoughts are, and I think I've actually communicated with Valerie. Normally, Valerie's my liaison whenever I ask for any communication with you guys. I'm hoping, so there's two communication mediums. There's the Instagram and then there's the email. The thing is, I'm not on like the Glendora Village Instagram like 24 hours. And so of course, when messages come through the Glendora Village, we get so many that they get buried. And so whenever there's something urgent or like important to the business owner, it does help to just email me directly. And so what I would love is the way I find out about things is if I'm walking around or if I see a social media post. So for example, what's her name? The female maker, Ronnie. Ronnie is doing this thing. And then so she sent me a bunch of images on Instagram. And I was like, why would you send it there? And then, but I found out that she was doing a little pop-up with, you know, the arena and on the avenue. And I was like, okay, great. So I posted that yesterday. And so that's happening tomorrow night. So I would, in terms of a marketing committee, I know that's a lot of time for y'all, but what I think would be really helpful is just like a communications thing, like, hey, because I know a lot of people aren't on social media. So, you know, we have the realtors and then we have the people who are most active, and then that's why we'll normally share it. But it would help if someone like just made it very clear, like if there was like a letter or something that goes, hey, if you have an upcoming promo or if you have an upcoming event, please email Louise directly, because then that way I can see it in my inbox and I know it's a priority. Because if I don't see it in my as an inbox, I'm just going to go based on whatever I see is happening. And normally when it comes down to it, I know I'm supposed to like market all the businesses, but I'm also trying to market the bid as a whole. So like when it comes to it, it's hard for me to like post of a random business office rather than what's happening on Meta or what's her name? The Mercantile, Ronnie's business. She's always doing something. And so the issue with her, I know, and Valerie had explained to me was she works in different, it's not just one thing. She's crazy. She does so many things. But she keeps life going. And I really appreciate that, because then I see the content that comes from her and I'm like, oh, look what's happening in the Glendora Village. So therefore it like brings out more energy to it, or things like that. Or like the Drink Your Greens was, you know, doing the thing. So we did a giveaway with them. And so, but I don't want other businesses to be left in the dust also, just because they're not on social media. But I also don't have the time to go and handhold each business. So, and I'm not going to do that. I can't do that because it's not wise for your budget. And it's just very time consuming. So whoever the boss is, I don't know who has the most power to be like, hey, business, if you want to be featured, please email Louise directly. Like what's it? Hilltop. Hilltop's very active on social media, and what's his name? Jade. He emailed me. He's like, hey, we're doing our celebratory. And I was like, yes, of course. So I added it to the calendar and then I posted on social media. So, you know, I followed I made sure like their event was covered in all parameters. And so if there's just that like communication, that would help me a lot. Therefore, we don't have to waste manpower, like going to each individual business and be like, hey, real estate company X30, like, are you doing something? And then I don't want people to be left in the dust. So, and then Dalal always, like when it's a village eatery, she's always like, hey, can you post about them? I was like, yeah, of course. And then when she asks me, I post it. And so it's not so much I do anything intentionally. It's I see what's happening. And then whatever I see what's happening when I'm walking or if I'm scrolling on social media, I'm like, oh, this is happening. And then so I'm just going to circle there. So I think the bottom line is, if the business or pertaining directly, and I understand it has to be Glendora Village business, like I agree 100%. I don't market anything off of the perimeter. But if it's like something important, I do highly recommend that it goes through email. And then another thing is Matt Klingler has been very active in this Instagram group, and he's like showed me some stuff, and then he would be like, hey, Louise, there's you emailed me and you're like, all these businesses are open on Monday. Can you give them a shout out? And I said, of course. And so I did a carousel of all the businesses that are open on Monday. So basically just email me. So like, if there's like some type of way we can do that, because in terms of committee, we have, I have my team member, she's coming out. I was going to do it today, but baby, she's going to come out and take new pictures, and we do it monthly. We take new pictures monthly and just like do videos and things like that. So that's going to happen today, but we're not going to get everything. So Yeah, does that make sense? I'm very eloquent in
Yeah.
communication.
So I know that for Instagram in particular, you're reposting everything that is tagged or added Glendora
Sort of,
Village,
sort of. So people don't tag us all the time.
Okay.
So I'm also like searching, and then we also have our content. And so I like to circulate, I like to mix it between, if it matches the feed, if it's too like off, I don't repost it. But normally we have our stuff, and then we have what other businesses are posting. And sometimes what other businesses are posting are more exciting. But if Shop Free Arena is, I hope they don't get mad at me for just like, but if they're going to post like flyers or graphics, like graphic heavy, I always have a backup photo to use.
Got it.
But if it's like really important, like for example, you have to get the message out there, like an event, and that needs a text because the date's in there. And then so when someone sees something, it's like, oh, okay, this is happening. Then I'll post that instead.
And is it widely known amongst the businesses that they can email Louise?
Don't know.
Yeah, we've sent emails, but again, it's hard to say how much they're opened and read. So
So for instance, when Drink Your Greens opened, we went there with my family and had a conversation with the owner. And I was able to tell him, both of them, him and his wife, about the Instagram feed, and that all they needed to do was to tag you or any of that. But I didn't think about email as being the official channel. So I don't know how they got your ultimately.
Oh, I just
contacted
paid
you.
attention.
Okay.
Yeah, I just see what's happening. And so, but like I said, it's a mix of me like running into something or seeing something. But the Drink Your Greens was a big deal because it was a grand reopening. They've been gone for a while, and then they finally opened. And I know Kathy also sent me, she's like, hey, they're gonna reopen. So, just like that extra touch of communication, I think would be helpful across the board, literally. But whoever wants, I don't want to put any onus on like you guys constantly having to email me, but I also need that just be like, hey businesses, this is her email. Go ahead and email her. You can spam her email. I actually don't care. I actually would prefer them spamming me because it helps the content overall. So,
And I also would assume that the businesses don't know necessarily that there's a specific day each month that you're coming to generate content.
yeah, but that's like different. Like I just go randomly. I don't try to coordinate with businesses because if I tried doing that and it didn't
It'd be too
work.
much.
Yeah. My store is not ready.
I guess the last thing is from last time, was there something specific that we wanted Louise to avoid? It was sort of related to promoting outside businesses. but
Yeah,
it
let
was
me
like,
know.
if there's a
because-
business that's having an event that's also promoting an outside business,
Mhm.
that was it, right?
I
that
think the
was,
one that
yeah.
was showing up quite a bit out there was Outdoor Elegance, and they're not in the village. It would,
Oh, okay. I have to check that one because I know they're not in the village, and I purposefully, I know why. They're a sponsor, and then we follow them. They sponsor Wine Walk. So if I were to unfollow, they wouldn't be shared.
So, but there wasn't any other issue with like Hilltop Realty having an ice cream truck or whatever it was, that kind of thing.
I don't know. We had discussions about that.
We had
so-
discussion about it. I
Right.
think it was it's sort of the idea that if one of the businesses brings in an outside
Yeah.
vendor, that we don't, that we try to sort of limit the marketing of that outside vendor.
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay. And I think that's fair. I think it's like definitely placing the focus on the actual event rather than the other vendors. Okay.
are there any other comments or questions?
So we opened this discussion to whether we're going to be having a marketing team or committee. That was what it was. So do we think that we need a committee for marketing or?
My vote would be no. We do not need a committee for marketing. I think Louise is doing a fine job. I just think we needed to do what we just did. I think that will suffice. And I think a committee would just add a lot of extra unnecessary work to our plates. I think a more communication or maybe one communication to the businesses. And if they don't want to take advantage of being able to email her about events that they have, it's like, can't make them do that.
I might suggest that we send out her contact information again. I, for one, know I don't have it, so
Okay. Or like
my
in
own
the,
fault, but
or just like examples of what you, what has been, so like the minute some, like Delella Tessa, every time she DMs me or she emails me directly, her stuff will always go up. And it's simply because she's super active and she's on it. And so it would be, I think it would be helpful just be like, hey, businesses, like our marketing team or whatever is very receptive and excited to promote your business. Here are examples of what we've done. You know, we post on Facebook, we make sure it's on the website, and then we also post on Instagram. Please send your stuff, because if you do, it'll populate it. And that also just like kind of maximizes your budget, because then all this content's being fed out. Whereas like, I'm just trying to work with whatever I've got, you know, in terms of getting my photos and, you know, searching the other ones. But I think it would be really good to just encourage them to just email me. Like email is the best, because like I said, I don't want it to get buried in social media either, just because I'm not on the account the entire time.
Makes sense. So can we ask for there to be some official communication from the city regarding all of this?
Yes, we'll go ahead and email everyone out. Louise had created a form to be completed, and we'll remind everyone of her email address as well.
And then there's also, I can resend you the blog. It's been helpful me doing the merchant features, because they just fill out the Q&A and pop it on the website, and now everyone has a spotlight. So.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
thank you very much.
When I can leave the child at home.
All right, I request a motion and a second to just for what?
To receive and file.
To receive and file.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion made by Board Member Davis and seconded by Vice Chair Klingler. I will now conduct an oral roll call vote, as well as open it up so you can vote. Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Jarvis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Klingler,
Yes.
Chair Nolan,
Yes,
motion carries 4-0.
perfect. Thank you. New business, the Business Improvement District Advisory Board fiscal 22-23 financial report through May 31st, and expenditures for fiscal year 2022 to 2023 year to date. I invited Alicia once again to report on this.
All right, we are looking again, as was mentioned, the summary of the bid's financial activity through May 31st, which is 92% of the entire fiscal year. So looking first at revenues, with us being so close to the end of the fiscal year and all major events, with the exception of Friday Night Twilight having taken place already, revenues are going to be about the same, with the exception of assessments. This was mentioned also at the last meeting. Assessments are a little less than expected. Last year, I believe the bid was at about $10,000 higher last year at this time. So again, not collecting as many as assessments. And with those vacancies in mind too, that's also why it's a little lower than expected. Looking at expenditures, again, being so close to the end of the year, not too many coming up, aside from the regular expenditures that occur monthly, which would be marketing at $1,000 a month, miscellaneous items such as storage, and also, like I said, the Friday Night Twilight events, which are very minimal, and it looks like we'll be within budget by the end of the year. Another item that also is listed on the the expenditure line items is going to be a $790 line item for the wine walk, which was just a delayed expenditure from the PD services that were provided. Other than that, again, similar to last month, the bids fiscal health is looking pretty good at a little over 100% of revenue and a little over half of what was expected for expenditures. So with that, this is a receive and file report.
Any comments or questions by the board?
What's the process for, what was it called? The, assessments, process for, whether businesses have not paid it or not.
So the process right now is not much is being done at the moment. A discovery could be conducted and we could ask our third party without have to come from the city. Every month, just a delinquency balance rolls over.
Got it.
At this point, basically, you're saying the assessment is basically going to be about where we are right now as of the end of May.
It fluctuates, but yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at to date, correct?
That's a big decrease. 39% down. Anything else?
There's no mechanism in place to put pressure on people who haven't paid to pay.
No, again, it's a possibility, but it would have to come from the board, and the city would have to reach out to our third party vendor. It would have to be a request for discovery. At that time, they would have to go out, see who's actually in business and who's active. And then from there, they would have to basically get a direction from the city to go ahead and enforce the delinquency.
I know it feels like getting into the weeds a bit, but if we're doing work to promote the businesses, I wouldn't want to be doing that work or featuring them on social media or having them take advantage of what we're offering if they haven't paid or if they're delinquent. So I don't know if there's an easy way to cross-reference that, or if we're talking about all the businesses on the avenue are in good standing, but if we're just talking about all the people who are kind of on the fringe, or
Yeah, maybe we can bring, have a report at the next meeting as just a special item on, what the city's practices across the board with business licensing and how it handles delinquencies across the board. I'm just not as, in tune or active in the collection or of business licensing. But we can talk to finance and maybe get, staff from there to sort of report on delinquencies with business licensing, with assessments and how that's handled.
yeah, it would be helpful if we could see a spreadsheet or see who is or is not.
So this is a funny story, actually. I was interested in finding this out, and there is on the city's website, you can put in a business address and it'll pop up whether that business has a license or not, or when the last time that business had a license. So for a while, I did that for the businesses downtown, but it's very time consuming. And I thought at some point, I would bring that to the board, but again, like I was spending a lot of time doing that and not the other things that I needed to do for my business. So, but it is something that we can look up on the city website.
I think the other thing we have to remember is it's a combination of delinquency and that $53,400 number of the adopted budget assessment is not an accurate number. We've come to that agreement also that that's a guesstimate based on what we've used year after year, I think, correct?
I don't particularly want to be kind of in the policing everybody's assessments. If it's way down though, then it might be worth looking at. Why is it way down?
I agree. It's not a little number at this point. So yeah.
If there's an easy way to find out more about that, then I think we should do it. If it's really complicated and
Are you just asking for what the process is, or do you really want a spreadsheet, just knowing that you're going to publicize who's delinquent?
maybe let's start with finding out what the process is.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't want to be the assessment police. I just want to make sure that that process is working and that we just don't have a whole bunch of people who've ignored it.
Okay, very good. If we have a second from anyone, we'll bring that back. The second.
I'll second.
Okay, at this point, any other questions or comments regarding this? I'd request a motion to receive and file this report then.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
So we have a motion made by Vice Chair Klingler, seconded by Board Member Jarvis. I will now conduct an oral roll call vote and open up for voting. Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Jarvis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Klingler,
Yes.
Chair Nolan,
Yes,
motion carries 4-0.
perfect. Thank you very much. And now we will move on to the review of the Glendora Village Business Improvement District Workshop. I invite Valerie Velasquez to please report on this.
Thank you. So we will go ahead and recap the workshop. So quick background and history on the bid, just most of you know that before the bid was the bid, it was a village business or business association known as a Glendora Village Business Association. Basically, it was, small number of businesses in the downtown that combined their resources and time to put on activities and marketing to benefit the village as a whole. And after, after seeing that there was just a limited amount of people, they came to the city and asked that they, if we could go ahead and form a business improvement district so that everybody would, have a contribution to the activities that were downtown. So the bid was established in 2009 under the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989. And since then, for the most part, the programming for the bid has been pretty consistent. Activities include beautification with the landscaping and the flag banners that you see downtown, marketing, the website, the social media, a couple newspaper ads, as well as the events that occur annually. So the bid has now been in existence for nearly 15 years. And so with that in mind, the city went ahead and conducted a survey at the end of last year, basically to gauge the satisfaction with the bid in regards to, how everyone felt that the bid was operating. We also wanted to know what kind of activities they would like to add to make the bid better, and then to talk a little bit or gauge a little bit the operation and administration of the bid. Oops, go back. So the workshop, after we held the survey, we did find that for the most part, satisfaction, majority did feel that the bid was beneficial, but did feel that it could be improved. With regards to new activity, there wasn't a real good consensus of where to go. So we held the workshop to go ahead and further continue that conversation and hear from the bid and get more engagement. So we held the workshop on Monday, June 5th. It was 2 hours from 10 to 12, and we had 24 bid members attend and contribute to the workshop. So the workshop went over a couple of different discussion points. We had a presentation on the bid. We went over the results of the survey. We discussed the finances, and then we held some interactive discussions for new activity and the administration of the operation of the bid. We ran out of time, so we barely briefly touched on that and would like to engage the board here to further that discussion. So when we started to discuss the pros and the cons of the village, the key points that we heard were that the strengths of the village were, the cleanliness and the aesthetics of the village, the ability to have joint funding and pool resources to provide the organized activity. There was a unified force, and people appreciate the events that are in the village. On the cons, there was mention of the pedestrian walkability and the circulation of the village. There was a lot of discussion on skateboarding. That's a tough one to address. I know our PD is out there when they can, and we've got signs on the sidewalk as well as on some of the poles, but skateboarding was mentioned. parking or the lack of, we try to always encourage employees and business owners to park maybe on the streets on Vista Bonita, Vermont, or the parking lot that is on the east side of Vista Bonita, so that you allow the parking in the streets and the primary lots to be for customers. Maybe the need for more signage, whether that's to direct people to parking or wayfinding throughout the city. There are signs throughout the city, but they're brown and they kind of blend in, I think, to the surroundings. The cons where there's not a lot of participation in the bid, and people would like to see more events. So keeping in mind the pros and cons, we then asked for suggestions for new activity. And I will say that the board recommended to council and council approved an additional 50,000 be added to the bid's budget to program some new activity for the next 2 years. So it's a total of 100,000. The bid has, I think, looking at the financial report, you have about 190,000 right now in your reserves. So 50,000 for the next 2 years. And some of the ideas they came up with as suggestions would be a photographer, and that would be to enhance and supplement your social media marketing. They would be able to provide her and feed her with some photos in the library that she can, go ahead and sprinkle into her mix, as well as go into businesses that don't always, that aren't active on social media. So she could provide them with pictures of those businesses as well. And we would probably do a contract for that, so the photographer comes out, however many hours we decide, a week or a month. An event coordinator, seeing that participation is lower than we've seen in the past, and businesses are busy with their businesses to conduct the events, and staff with the city, our time has been is limited too. There's a lot of things we're working on. So event coordinator to help with all those events. People have asked for additional events. You heard Ronnie today come forward with a request for one specifically, but in general, people talked about maybe bringing in a movie night or a farmer's market or some kind of a craft market, or maybe concerts in the village, now that we've got the improvements on the plaza and Mita. There's also was a little bit of discussion on public use of the village, so that the work is not all on the village, but maybe we go to city council and recommend that city council put together a policy so that other organizations or individuals could use the village and bring people down into it, and it's not all on the bid. Marketing other than social media, are there alternative avenues for doing additional marketing? Instagram worthy photo ops. So we've got the balloons right now in the plaza, and you've got the Mita improvements, but the balloons, I believe, would be swapped out. So if the bid has any interest in maybe doing a contribution to rotating the balloons and changing out what we have out there to be an attraction for people to come and see, or any other Instagram worthy pieces of art or murals, anything that you guys would like to see, that's an option. And then, parking, if there's any ideas on what you can do to alleviate parking. So again, these are all just ideas that were brought up. We're coming to the board to further discuss that and see what you would like to pursue. You can't do everything with the 50,000. You might want to pick a couple and see what we could do with that. And then also keep in mind that these additional funds are only for 2 years, so it's not going to be sustainable long-term unless you were to bring in something that were to create additional revenue, or you remove some of the current activity that you have programmed. So things to think about. Next was the administration and operation of the bid. Again, we didn't have a lot of time to discuss this. We kind of fell short on time, wanting to respect the 2-hour timeline. But so the bid, as you know, is heavily administered and managed by city staff. You've got community development, which is those of us you see here, city clerk as well, finance department, and public works. So it is heavily administered by the bid, and there's a ton of projects in the pipeline right now, so our staff time is limited So understanding that we've got the bid has their current activity plus, new activity, anything new they want to do is going to require more time. And so the question is there, an opportunity for moving the administration to outside of city? There are other bids that operate separately from the city, or at least with a much less amount of oversight. There are boards that will operate with an executive director that oversees them and manages them and helps him hold their meetings. Others have ties to the Chamber of Commerce. So again, there's a lot more independence. There might be a little bit less hesitation for people to participate and come to the meetings if they're outside of City Hall. So there's going to be benefits to that, to encouraging engagement. And if the board were to be interested in maybe a little bit of separation from the city, what would the funding look like? Again, an executive director is going to cost money. Again, we talked about what you have in your reserves, but it's nothing sustainable long-term. So there may be an ask of the city council to help support that, to give you some more independence, but still further the economic development of the village and the sustainability of what the village is. It is somewhat known as the heart of the city, the downtown. So we would want to, see what you would need to help support if you were to go in that direction. And again, there is also the option of, switching back to a village business association instead of a formal business improvement district. So with that, looking for the board to have some good discussion on the next steps. We want to discuss maybe the feedback from the workshop for those of you that attended. Also, any direction for next step with new programming or activities, as well as thoughts on the operation of the bid and moving away from so much city oversight. So I'm here to answer questions and help you facilitate this discussion, but that concludes this report.
Thank you, Valerie. And now I open it up to the board members so we can discuss this, and see where we might want to go. Kathy, you want to start?
Sure. As far as the things that were discussed during the workshop, and I gathered, well, I mean, there's not much we can do about parking except for encourage, people to who work in the village, who come and park their cars, in the areas that, we could use for customers to park across the street at Vista Bonita and use that parking, instead. That would help alleviate some of the parking issues, but we do have a lot of interest for a farmer's market. And I know that Matt was looking into that. And I know that there was some trouble with the person that you guys were trying to coordinate with, and that was going to be expensive and stuff, but have we looked into further options for having a farmer's market? Or
No, we've not looked into further options. The guy we were trying to coordinate with seems to have disappeared and is not responding to emails
Interesting.
or texts. So,
Okay. I think having an events coordinator might work to our benefit. They could also be our liaison to our marketing, staff, and we'd be better organize our events, so we only, we're going through one person, and, kind of making that easier for us. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Either of you have any comments?
I just texted the farmer's market guy again, so let you know.
It seems like there's two categories of things here. One are the feedback of functional things within the village, and the other is the administration and process that for the bid. As someone who is still relatively new to this process, it seems to me that if this were an independent organization, there might be a little bit more freedom outside of the parliamentary process of these meetings if there was a central figure, an event coordinator or a leader of the bid that was able to operate independently outside of this process, it might go faster. So that would be something I think that would be a positive for moving it away from the city. On the other hand, you'd have to have a pretty robust organization in place, and we don't currently. So if it were a part of the Chamber of Commerce, or it were a part of an organization that is already up and running and functioning really well, then I feel like it would be pretty safe. I think if you were to spin it off at the moment, I'd be concerned about its viability. But that's not to say that we could work towards that over the next 6 months to a year.
I have a meeting with Joe Cena next Friday to talk about putting the bid in the housing the bid under the Chamber of Commerce. It's my first thing. Second thing, if we had someone like Megan Kay, who helped with the wine walk, to be our event coordinator on a more ongoing basis, I think we'd get a lot done. Yeah, I like Megan too. She's great. She's on the ball. So those are my thoughts.
I agree with a lot of the comments that were made here. A photographer, I think that idea is great. Either event coordinator / executive director. I don't know. I'm with Matt over there. That can be very expensive. I don't know how we can pull that one off. But I also like the idea of going under the Chamber of Commerce. I think Joe does a great job as a Chamber of Commerce here locally now. Would it work with us in there? I don't know. That would be, something we'd have to further those discussions. So I guess that puts back onto you guys, where do we go from here? You've kind of heard the comments, and what do we do now?
Well, what I'm hearing is that I think 3 of you mentioned that the chamber might be a safe or possible alternative. So we've had a preliminary discussion with Joe. We can further engage that discussion, find out what the financing looks like, and maybe come back to the board with additional information. And as you mentioned, it would be a process. It wouldn't be anything that would happen overnight, but if we go that direction, we would transition it so that we can smoothly go that way. Anything you want to add?
No, I think like Valerie said, we've talked with Joe at the chamber and about this idea. It probably would require some level of additional city support, to properly, staff the chamber to support the bid. It also, and we haven't really delved into this too much, is that we do know that there are bids that function, independently from, the city in which they're located. And so we would have to do a little bit more work and research to explain how that works. There's still probably going to be some relationship because, questions like, who appoints the board members, how do they get selected, or who, collects the assessments, and how is the financing managed? So those types of things we would probably have to answer. I think on, if using the $50,000 to have an event coordinator, or at least a part of that, is probably a good thing to keep your events going. The way I look at the bid, so I was around at the beginning when the bid was initially conceived. Dawn was around. And the purpose was to support the core events and to fund a more consistent additional marketing program. Those were really and I think then after the bid was formed, the idea to beautify the downtown, putting some money into enhanced landscaping and other things became a priority of the bid. So of the events that you do, you have certain ones that are going to happen probably with or without the bid. The holiday stroll is really a community event, even though it's largely supported by the bid. I would imagine that, you know, the Halloween walk would still happen. There would probably be somebody or some organization to step up and support the wine walk. And then you have additional businesses, when we just heard from Ronnie, who may want to have their own smaller events, but you need maybe a body that kind of vetted that a little bit before it was okayed in the village, since there's a lot of things going on. And then you have your marketing program. How do you fund that? So those are the core things I think that the bid, or that an organization, was the reason to have it exist. And there were a lot of reasons at the time, to form a bid. There were a couple of businesses who were really supporting that as a structure, because the folks who were involved in the Village Business Association felt like there was a group of around 6 or 7 businesses, and really they felt like that they were not only contributing all of their time, but also they were the only ones
Finance.
funding it, funding events and funding, at the time, newspaper ads and things like that they were doing. So maybe there's a happy medium with the chamber, because I do think right away when the bid was formed, there was a complaint about the Brown Act meeting process and the parliamentary process that we're stuck with, and possibly having the city there, but having the day-to-day run through the chamber would give it the village more flexibility. I also think the second thing that happened right away was that the perception was, not intentionally, but when the city as a government gets involved in things, there are folks who were concerned about what the bid was doing and how it was paying for things, and why certain businesses were being made to pay things when only a certain number benefited. But the city was trying to, take control over everything that happened, and, overly influence and tax and those types of things. And so there was a very tough time to deal with those issues. The bid came out of it and survived. But I sense that there's still a little bit of that sentiment there. So also the benefit of having it outside of the 4 walls of the council chamber where we're sitting right now might provide a better, better perception and maybe level of support for the bid if it was part of the chamber. So those are my comments on that. But I think this is a discussion that the bid needs to have in more detail, and we need to provide some more information so the board can make a, intelligent decision on this. And probably hear from the chamber. I know that Joe's on vacation this week,
Yeah.
so.
It does seem that there seems to be consensus that having an event coordinator, having someone who's the point person for all of this would be a good thing.
Absolutely.
So can we make a motion to figure out how to put that in place? Is that something we would put on the agenda for next time, or?
Yes, we'll go ahead and put together something that you guys can further discuss with regards to what exactly you're looking for, so we could kind of define a scope, and then we will have to go out and get some proposals for that.
So maybe I can move to look at what it would take to have Megan be the event coordinator, either on a limited basis or a more.
Well, we have reached out to Megan. She's interested, but I believe our city policies, again, something we have to do is we do have to get proposals, but we
Okay.
will reach out to her as well.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there anything else? Is it just the event coordinator that you're looking to pursue of those activities then? Because it's a
I think we should
50,000.
look to pursue where we're heading, which direction. Is that through hiring an executive director, or is
Okay.
it through partnering up with the chamber somehow? So whatever needs to be done in terms of that from the city to help us
Great.
understand that better and move forward. to
That makes sense, since
Yeah.
we're limited on volunteers for additional activity anyways.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the photographer too. I mean, if we want to pick items, maybe we should go through now and say, this is what we want. I'm not sure.
Because if there was an independent, I don't know if the independent is the right word, but if there was, let's just call it the event coordinator. Would the event coordinator be the person who is taking a bit of the load off of you, off of the city, and helping coordinate the photographer and helping coordinate with Louise and doing all of those things. Does that solve the first part of the issue on the city's side of not having the resources?
The event coordinator would definitely be beneficial. There's a lot more to it, but that would help.
It's a start.
It's a start.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the start while we're also pursuing Chamber of Commerce and all of those other things.
So when you're looking for an event coordinator, are you saying you want for that scope to also include photography?
I think
You'd have to open public comment if you would like to hear.
I think what I'm trying to figure out is whether or not the event coordinator person would sort of be the person that is on a normal regular basis handling some of these things that would normally fall on you all on the city side. So if it's hiring a photographer, now I know there's some city stuff about you've got to go through the RFP process for hiring the photographer. But once we had the photographer, maybe the event coordinator would be the person who is the liaison,
them.
managing, setting up the time to go to the city, talking to the businesses directly, and potentially taking over some of that communication in addition to working with businesses who want to have events, et cetera, et cetera. Is that?
So are you saying you want to discuss the parameters of what the events coordinator will do now before we?
I mean, it's one thing to say, let's start the process of hiring an event coordinator. But yeah, there should be discussion about what.
Well,
the
Valerie
person's going to be
suggested
doing.
that, once we pass this, your suggestion that we just made
Mhm.
for the next meeting, we can discuss the parameters of what we want the events coordinator to do.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
And
Otherwise, I mean, we can
Carrie-
discuss it now if you want to and set up the parameters now and then give it to them. But then we'll have to.
I'm hearing
withdraw
what
our-
Matt's saying. So it almost sounds like it's more of not even event coordinator, but kind of just a bid coordinator to some degree, where you want someone to do a lot, which
think
is kind of like moving to the chamber person. So I think that's kind of where we're going. We
I
might have
think
to
at this
do.
point, we may want to just put it out for an event coordinator to handle the events and then that's the first step and then see where we go with the chamber before we or then at that point determine what falls under this event coordinator or whatever.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think some of the stuff you're saying is just more of an overall coordinator, which is kind of what we're doing is managing everything.
Yeah, I think what I want to address the issues that were brought forward, both in an immediate way and also in a long-term way. So if starting the process of the event coordinator could help alleviate some of the one part of the concern, which is how much day-to-day work you all are doing on some of the coordination. It could also help us transition to a model that would be closer to what it could be in the future. Does that make sense?
I would say, let's do this. Why don't you be the board member that assists me with writing this and we can connect and
Okay, sure.
You just volunteered for that.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so unless there's anything else, I think we have a motion and a second. Is that correct?
Correct. We have a motion by Board Member Davis, seconded by Board Member Jarvis. I will now conduct an oral roll call vote as well as open it up so you guys can do manually. Board Member Davis,
Yes.
Board Member Jarvis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Klingler,
Yes.
Chair Nolan,
Yes.
motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Closing comments. Any board members have anything to say?
In closing, I would just like to state that we also, well, the bid board serves an important function, I believe, between the city and the businesses, especially in downtown. I feel like we are the heart of Glendora. That's where people come and they get their overall general idea of what Glendora is all about. And I think dissolving our board, kind of benefits or does us a great disservice because we'll have less coordination, especially with the city, in what goes on downtown. And I think we just need to be, stronger in, the things that we expect, the things that we want, and have more coordination with the city, more communication with the businesses downtown, so we know what's going on. Like Louise said earlier, like the reason I find out a lot of things that are going on downtown, even though I'm down there every day, is social media. And I'm like, oh, well, this is happening. So I'll repost, things that are happening with other businesses too. And I find out a lot of what's going on downtown just through social media alone. So I just feel like we just need better communication, better, we need to have, I don't want to give up. I feel like we all are busy and we all have things to do and we just want to throw it to somebody else to get this done for us. And I feel like we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we just gave up and didn't, try to be that middle person and speak up for the businesses downtown. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
You, Kathy, Matt? Either of the Matts?
I know I've spoken a lot, but I think one thing that is if the city, one of the positives of having the bid under the city is that it is something that is how do I say this? There are a lot of ways that the city directs and who the city is, what the quality of it is, what the feel of the downtown is. A lot of that is because of the city, of who Glendora is, of the city council members, of the leadership that has tried very hard to keep it a certain way. And having the improvement district and the events and all of those things under the city, I think is a good thing. If you want to continue to keep that, have it under that leadership. I'm not going to say that the Chamber of Commerce is any different in that regard, but I could see that there could be a point at which the city wants Glendora to be a certain way, and yet we might have all of these events or all of these other things in the downtown that are different. And so I think that's something to think about as we continue to talk about it. I think that there's still a way that we can have the bid be under the city, but help the specific things that are hard for the city in having to coordinate everything, and whether that's the event coordinator or us taking on more responsibility in the day-to-day operation of it, that could allow it to stay under the city.
Thank you, Matt. Matt, nothing. Just one comment from me is I wanted to bring up the entertainment, downtown entertainment stuff, music in the village or whatever, in individual businesses. I don't know if that's something, I know the city was working on that. And I know there's been other things that have come up and had little problems here and there. So is there something that we can do to kind of, or is that going to stay with the city?
Are you talking about outdoor entertainment?
Outdoor entertainment.
So that's something that we will likely be bringing forward to the board, just to kind of give a recommendation to council on policy we may be putting into place. But we know that there's a lot of businesses that want to have entertainment. So we have a couple ideas that we are working on, and we will be bringing them forward to you. maybe at our next meeting. So just from my comment is I want to thank you all for your input today. There was some good discussion up here. I want to remind you that we will be dark in August. City Council will be dark through the second meeting of July and first in August. So in sync with that, the bid will be dark for their August meeting. And then it looks like we'll be coming back to you on September 7th with quite a few reports. So one of those, might be music. I don't know if we'll be ready for it, but possibly we'll have it to you then as well.
Perfect, thanks.
All
Any
right.
comments from Alicia or Jeff? No. All right, thank you very much. At this time, we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:47 a.m.